I've been working on theories for quite some time to attempt to explain why everybody's going insane. And I mean that in a clinical way. Why are people losing their minds? I mean, society is totally insane. I know you can see it for yourself. You look around, you look at how the media operates and how people are crazy, and social media and what people are tweeting and posting on Facebook, and the TV shows are insane. There's just a big-time insanity all around us. So I found a study from 2008 that may shed light in a very surprising, even astonishing way on this, and could help explain why people are going insane. The study is entitled, and you're going to think this is a joke, but it's not. It's actually, we've posted it on science.naturalnews.com. It's called Mercury Release from Dental Amalgam Restorations After Magnetic Resonance Imaging and Following Mobile Phone Use. I know it's a long title. This was conducted by the Pakistan Journal of Biological Sciences. I mean, it was published there in 2008, and I can't pronounce the authors' names because they're all Pakistani, but essentially, it found that people who use mobile phones have an accelerated release of mercury from their dental fillings. Isn't that fascinating? Now, why could this account possibly for the increased insanity that we're seeing in the world? Well, for many, many decades, people used silver fillings, or so-called silver. They're actually mercury. They're about 50% mercury, and they contain usually some copper and tin and something else. I don't know what the alloy is, but it's about 50% mercury. And dentists have been putting these into people's mouths for generations. And for most of that time, we did not have Wi-Fi. We did not have mobile phones. We did not have the constant use of these mobile electronic devices right next to our heads, where, guess what? It's also close to your mercury fillings. Isn't that interesting? And I know that if this wasn't a published study that's in PubMed, this is in the National Library of Medicine, you would think I'm making this up. Here's the PubMed ID, by the way. Here it is, 188-19554. Search for that, the PubMed ID. Again, 188-19554. Just so you can confirm that this is a published study. Now, what it means is that all this time people have had mercury in their teeth, and dentists are still putting it in kids' mouths, which is total insanity all by itself. But if that mercury stays stuck in the tooth and is not released, then it's hard to argue that it's very dangerous. But what if it's getting released? What kinds of things can cause mercury fillings to be released? Well, again, this study shows that mobile phones appear to significantly accelerate the release of mercury from dental amalgam restorations. And the abstract of the study states, quote, further research is needed to clarify whether other common sources of electromagnetic field exposure may cause alterations in dental amalgam and accelerate the release of mercury, end quote. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? So what it could mean is every time you use your mobile phone, you're actually driving yourself a little bit more crazy. And those who wear Bluetooth headsets are way better off because they usually keep their phone somewhere else, in a pocket, in a purse, far from their jaw, far from their teeth. But if you're actually holding a mobile phone up to your face, then you are, in effect, creating a very strong electromagnetic field that's very close to your dental fillings. And if you have mercury, that mercury is getting released. And guess what? You're inhaling it. It's not just that you're swallowing it. You're inhaling it. Little tiny bits of mercury vapor are being slowly released off your teeth as you're talking on the mobile phone. And every time you inhale, you're getting a little bit more mercury in your lungs, which of course goes right into your bloodstream, which of course circulates directly to your brain. So you are lobotomizing yourself with a toxic heavy metal known as mercury every time you use your mobile phone if you have silver fillings. Now, how many people in America have silver fillings? I don't know the number, but let's say it's 100 million. It's probably more. This is the cheapest filling that you can possibly get. This is what insurance companies like to cover. Now, let's say you got 100 million Americans with dental fillings like this, with mercury, and then how many people have a mobile device? Well, probably 80% of adults, let's say, except, let's say adults under the age of 70, people between, let's say, 20 and 70, maybe 70, 80%, I don't know. It's just a wild guess, but it's a big number, right? And so if you match that up with the number of people that have silver fillings, which is probably more than 100 million, you might get to a point where, maybe it's 80 million people that have both silver fillings and are using mobile phones on a frequent basis. So you have potentially 80 million Americans walking around driving themselves insane with mercury poisoning, and they have no freaking idea. Now, in case you think this is a crazy idea, the history of human history is filled with all kinds of poisonings, mass poisonings of the population that were not understood at the time. They were only understood later. And mercury, by the way, is one of these. Mercury was used by hatters in preparing the felt linings of the hat. And that's why the phrase mad as a hatter, that's where it came from, because they would come into contact with a lot of mercury and they would go insane. Lots and lots of mercury. And also dentists, by the way, are kind of famous for this. A lot of dentists are crazy, bat-esque crazy, as we say, without using the profanity. But some dentists are crazy because they were trained on mercury fillings, and in dental school they inhaled a lot of mercury and they came into contact with a lot of mercury. And even today they're drilling on patients' teeth and they're inhaling the mercury because they don't know any better. And of course, we've had lead arsenate. It was a common pesticide that was sprayed on crops for many, many decades until it was finally banned by the FDA. We had lead, another toxic element, in gasoline for many, many decades. Remember leaded gasoline? Until it was banned. When was it banned? Was that in the 1980 or something like that? Anyway, it was banned by the EPA at some point because they figured out, this is toxic and it's killing everybody. I mean, killing everybody's intelligence, I should say. It makes children retarded. And they banned lead and paint after finding out that children were eating the lead paint, and then they couldn't take the tests at school anymore. These days they just water down the test. They don't remove the lead. They just say everybody's a winner. But the history of human civilization is filled with events of these mass poisonings taking place that were only discovered after the fact. Hey, what about children's playground equipment made out of wood? And it was pressure treated wood, and that was made with arsenic and hexavalent chromium. Chromium-6, that talk about some nasty, crazy stuff. It's extremely, extremely toxic, hexavalent chromium. I think that film, Aaron Brockovich, was about that, actually. This mass contamination and the cover-up by the government and the cover-up by the corporations. And, pressure-treated wood became a huge source of arsenic poisoning. And then later on, that was finally banned. Perhaps, was that by the EPA? Probably. But if you go throughout human history, you find all these cases of people being poisoned. Well, what about Wi-Fi and electropollution and mobile phones and all these devices? Could they be poisoning us now in a way that modern science does not yet fully understand? And what if it's a binary poison? And that's what this study is all about. A binary poison is a poison that requires two different elements to be activated in conjunction in order to create the toxic effect. So here we have to combine the mobile phone with mercury fillings. Only when those two are combined do we have this accelerated release of fillings made of mercury, which then contaminates the body and the brain, causing kidney damage and neurological damage, which, of course, is diagnosed as things like Alzheimer's and dementia and other neurological problems. So is this a mass binary poison that is unknown, that is unidentified by most of the modern world, even though this guy, this author, I'll try to pronounce his name, Mortazavi, SMJ, one of the authors, this guy had figured this out in 2008. 8 years ago, he figured this out. And yet, no one is... I stumbled across this and was shocked to find it. No one's talking about this. Nobody in the media is saying if you use your mobile phone, it's gonna fry the mercury out of your fillings and it's gonna give you poisoning. No one's talking about that, even though that is essentially what this study says. And the FDA, I haven't heard them talk about this. The EPA, how about the American Dental Association? They're not talking about this either. It's a conspiracy of silence on all these issues. They don't mind if you get poisoned as long as they can keep making money by drilling and billing with dental fillings. When it drill, fill, and bill. That's their that's the dental law firm. Welcome to Drill, Fill, and Bill Incorporated. So this is a very real, very real phenomenon. And if you have mercury fillings, this is one more reason to remove them. Obviously, if you're using a mobile device near your head, you don't want to do that in conjunction with having these mercury fillings. So ideally, you would eliminate both. Not your head, but your mobile phone use near your head. Reduce the time that you spend talking on mobile devices, especially those ones that are near your brain or teeth, and get the mercury out of your mouth. And do it with a qualified holistic dentist who knows what they're doing and won't have you inhaling the mercury vapors as they're drilling them out of your teeth. That's key. You don't want to drill it out and then just breathe it back in. It's not a good situation. And any dentist that wants you to do that is already mad, and you probably shouldn't visit them in the first place. So spread the word. This could be what's driving everybody insane, or at least part of that picture. Thanks for listening. This is Mike Adams. I'm the Health Ranger, naturalnews.com, and healthrangerreport.com.